right? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
you have the floor.
Okay.
1 second, please, Stacey. Just 1 second. Just 1 second, please. Just hold on 1 second, please.
I'm really not at the beach, but I'm pretending I am. I feel good about where I'm at right now with this lovely background coming on. Talk to you today about your marketing department and how your marketing department can be agile if it's not already. And can everybody see my slides? It looks like the sharing.
Yes, you can hold it.
It's good?
Yeah, good. Good, we can see.
Okay. You can see this. All right. So I started my journey as a marketer, and I worked as a marketer for around 15 years and worked as a college marketing adjunct professor at a local community college as well. And spent the last 8 years as Scrum Master and Agile coach and Agile trainer. And I started doing this actually in software. So I have seen it both in software and now in marketing. And when I got started in the Agile field about years ago, marketing was not doing this kind of thing. They said, oh, that is not for us. That is for those people in technology. We like how we work. We're not going to change. But I had a problem in my first job at a software company that I was working with. And the problem that I had there was that I was working with the ad agency and I was working with the end client and I was working with the software company. And we were 3 different companies in 3 different locations that were not communicating very well with each other. And the ad agency would call me all the time and say, Stacey, I need to change something right away. Go ahead, fix the website, get it on the page, hurry, it's an emergency. And these emergencies were being several times a day. It was always another emergency. And I was a project manager for the software company at the time. And one of my colleagues taught me about Agile and started explaining what it was and how it could benefit me. And then I said, oh, this makes so much sense. I really get it now. And so they started just explaining to me, and without really taking any formal training, I went ahead and I started experimenting with a few things. So one of the things I tried was to get my ad agency client to start writing a backlog and tell me all of the things that they wanted to work on coming up in the future, and to start prioritizing those in a digital tool. And so we could see it, they could see it, we would have some transparency, and we would have a little bit of order to the chaos, to the madness that was happening. And so we experimented with that as the first thing, and it really cut down on all the emergencies that were happening multiple times a day. The second thing that was really big that I experimented with was getting the software development team, the ad agency, and the end client virtually meeting. We weren't even in person, but virtually meeting every single week and showing the work we had done on the website. And what this did was it reduced a lot of the chaos, a lot of the what are you actually doing, a lot of the miscommunication that happens when you have multiple people and multiple companies involved. And it built out this sense of transparency. And this transparency was really, really new, and it was cool. And I was sold on Agile right from there. I said, this really works. This is really, really interesting. And so I decided that that was now going to be my career, and I was going to pursue Agile as a career rather than marketing. Today, I work as a trainer. I write for a publication called MarTech Today on Agile marketing. I also author case studies for the Business Agility Institute. And I still do have my hands in marketing as well, working as a community manager for another training company. And doing lots of presentations on this like I'm doing here today, and just trying to educate people on both Agile and then how you can use it in marketing and what you might need to do a little bit differently. So I'm really happy to be invited here today. I know right before the pandemic, I was invited to come to Nigeria, and that did not happen. And maybe someday I will meet you all in person when the world is a little less crazy. But anyways, I'm so excited the virtual world has brought us closer together, and that even here, sitting in my home in the US, that I can bring you the knowledge that I'm really excited to share.
You're welcome.
So first of all, is anybody familiar, just a show of hands virtually, with the term VUCA?
Yeah.
So you are familiar with this term. So I started teaching marketers about VUCA way before the pandemic. So it means volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Do you find our world feels like that right now? And I cannot see the chat box. I know people are chatting. It's kind of hidden when I'm showing my display here. All right. So VUCA. We have more VUCA right now than I've ever experienced in my lifetime, and I'm sure all of you feel the same way. We all probably had an idea of what 2020 was going to look like in our marketing. And maybe we had a really tight plan, maybe we had a loose plan, but most of us probably had some sort of plan that we were following. For me and my business, I had a high-level plan. It blew up, right? Everyone's plans kind of blew up, and we're sitting in this space, this place right now where we have to be able to quickly respond to the world around us. We don't know what it's going to bring. We don't know what is going to happen in the world. We just know that a 5-year marketing plan is invalid. A 1-year marketing plan is invalid. So what Agile does is it teaches us how to plan. So some people think Agile, we throw out all plans. We still plan in Agile, but what we do is we plan with a lot of flexibility built in there. So we plan with the assumption that we cannot control the things in the world around us, and that we have to be willing to adapt and change gears at any time. So Agile sets us up to be able to do that really well, because we plan high level early, but we plan details often, and we don't really plan details until we're about to do the work. So what happens, instead of all this really long upfront planning that things like COVID make it just disappear, we're going to have a vision of where we're going with our marketing. We might have a quarterly high-level goals and some ideas, but that planning that happens, we do that on a more as-needed basis, and we call it at the last responsible moment. So Agile marketing allows us to do that a lot better than traditional marketing, where we assume we're right. We spend a lot of time up front doing a lot of research, and if those plans aren't executed, we've wasted a lot of time. So the idea with Agile marketing is that we're doing micro campaigns and we're getting things out quickly. We're getting real-time feedback from our customers, and we're responding to the environment around us. So what do you think? Is marketing about customers, or is it about management? I don't know how marketing is in your culture, but I can tell you that in the United States, most marketing is decided by management. And a bunch of managers usually sit around a boardroom, and they don't have any data. They have power, and they use their power to influence, and they say, this is the marketing that we need to do. And they make a plan, and then it goes all the way down the funnel to the people that are going to do the marketing, and they're handed it off like a McDonald's worker, and they say, okay, now go do this. And they don't have a lot of thought in it or a lot of say in it. And the decisions aren't often made with the customer in mind. They're made with the company in mind. So in the US, we're very profit driven. Can we make money at this? 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now, I went to college for journalism and communications. And we were taught about pushing messages to our customers. You know, you build it, they will come, we would push the messages down. It was not about customer relationships. It was about, we're the company, we want to sell you something. It was selling at all costs mindset. Today, that does not work. Customers are very educated. They're very informed. They can find out information quickly. How they interact with your company and your brand becomes very collaborative and be quick. We can't be making the decisions about what our customers want in the boardroom anymore. Okay? We have to make those decisions about what our customers want from our customers. And the way we do that is by launching smaller campaigns more often and using that feedback to inform what we're going to do next. And getting ourselves away from the power struggles and the power plays and who has the highest paycheck. I don't know if that is your culture, if that's an issue there. But in the US, very, very much the culture. So another reason that marketers are getting involved is in the United States, several teams have been using AGILE for the past 10 years. It's really been around 20 years, but I would say in the last 10 years, more and more often. But what we've discovered in the Agile world and in the corporate world is that Agile is not about a single department. You can't just be Agile in software and not be Agile anywhere else in the company. It becomes a culture clash within the organization, right? It's like, saying I'm this religion, you're that religion, but we're all living under one roof, and we have different values and different things we're doing. And so we need to have our companies all embrace what we call business agility. That is agility throughout the whole company. And so marketing is one of the fastest growing areas in that. We're also seeing it happen in finance and human resources. But here's a problem that I ran into when I was consulting with a client. Their software development team had worked really hard. They were getting more agile. They were releasing software quickly. However, the marketing department in the same company was not agile. They were still following traditional management practices, and they could not market the software as it came out because they were too slow. They were too forced down by rigidity and defined process thinking and managers controlling everything. And so even though the company had gotten so great at saying, oh, our website updates are going to happen all the time, we have these wonderful new things for our customers, marketers have to be there to help customers know about it. And when your marketing team isn't on board with it, the whole thing kind of dissolves, right? It's not as effective. So I'm going to talk to you now about some trends that I have witnessed in marketing that might be a little bit differently than what we're seeing in Agile in traditional software teams. So there are some definite differences to the adoption of how marketers are embracing Agile marketing. So the first thing is they are more framework agnostic. And if you're not familiar with frameworks, Scrum is a very common framework you might hear about, or Kanban is another common framework. XP is a framework more on the software side. So those are frameworks. And frameworks are designed to give you a lightweight process to be agile. And when we say agile, we are only talking about a core set of principles and values. There's no process to agile. We're trying to be agile, but there's no recipe for doing that. So the frameworks give us, I wouldn't say necessarily a recipe, but a little more definition on how to go about working to embrace agility. So in software development, we most often see what we call the Scrum framework being used. And Scrum is basically a time-boxed framework where you have a set of meetings, a set of roles, and a set of artifacts, and it repeats on a cycle. And it is pretty lightweight. There's still a lot of room for interpretation by the organizations itself. The Kanban framework is what we call a flow method, and we are looking at efficiency and flow, and it originated actually in manufacturing from Toyota in Japan and how they were working through building their cars. And so they're two kind of different frameworks. What we're most commonly seeing is in marketing is a hybrid of those two put together. So marketers are less likely to embrace a single framework, but more want to kind of pick and choose the pieces that they feel work for them. I have found that small companies or ad agencies or digital agencies, very quick turn types of marketers do better with Kanban. And larger companies with more traditional process do better with Scrum. So that's kind of what I'm seeing as far as it. But the adoption has been a little bit less about the framework in marketing than we see it in software development. So we've also seen a trend in terminology changes. And Scrum has 3 roles called a Scrum Master, a Product Owner, and a Development Team. And everybody else is either a stakeholder or they might have a job title within their company, but the framework of Scrum does not define that title. And most commonly, marketers are embracing what they call a marketing owner role, which is a little bit of a hybrid of a product owner and a Scrum Master, doing both things. And so that person is usually working with the leadership to understand which work is coming down, what the priorities are for the business, and they are working on prioritizing a backlog of marketing activity and working with customers to understand the marketplace. And they are also trying to help teach the team about Agile. Although I will say from my experience that teaching the team about Agile in marketing is a bit of a gap because most marketers have never done it before. They don't have that built-in expertise, at least what I'm seeing in my part of the world, and they don't have that experience level. So that part seems to still be a gap. They are starting to realize that reaching out to a coach or a trainer or someone outside of their organization is probably a good idea if they don't have that in-house already, because it's hard for someone internally to teach the rest of the company if they themselves have never done it. So we are seeing a little bit of a shift in that right now. Oh, does someone have a question?
No, continue.
Okay. I will definitely do some Q&A here at the end as well. So one thing, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Agile and Agile marketing, but in software, we have developed a technique called a user story. And a user story is writing out our work in the form of the user of a system. So it might be saying something like, you know, as a instructor, I want to log into Facebook to see if I can find new students. That would be a user story. really built around technology. That I made, and this is a Stacey Ackerman adaptation, so you may not find it too many places, but I've started to call this a customer story. And this comes from my journalism background. If anyone here has a journalism background, who, what, why, where, when, how, right? And so in a customer story, we're looking at, first of all, we're turning our work a little bit differently. So if I were to say, I need to write a press release, okay, that is the what. But we're taking it one step further. So I need to write a press release for who and why and what is the benefit to that person for this, right? So, you know, I might say something as, you know, as a reporter, I want to get a press release so I understand what the latest COVID update is in the United States. Okay? So we're just adding a little bit more color to our work. So our teams, because Agile is all about working in teams, our teams can understand who the work is for and the benefit of the work. So we're just putting this into more of a sentence form that is more marketing friendly. Marketers today typically just, you know, say, I'm doing this thing, right? This is the work I'm doing. So we're trying to take that one step further and Agile to be more customer centric. The other concept that we're applying in Agile marketing is what we call the minimally viable. So we have minimally viable personas, campaigns, and briefs, and I'll kind of walk you through what those are. A persona, is everyone here familiar with the term persona? Maybe, maybe not. And I do apologize if there are things I'm speaking of that don't translate culturally. So please feel free to stop me if there is a translation that is not reaching.
That's okay. That's okay.
Is it good? Okay. So a persona is taking our ideal customer and making some assumptions about that, like demographics, maybe you know, how much money they make, how they live their life, are they single, are they married, do they have kids? And we might call this persona Stacey Supermom. Okay, Stacey Supermom is our customer, and we know a little bit about her so we can target our marketing towards her. The problem that we see in our practices in marketing here is that marketers have spent too much time writing these personas that they might spend weeks or months on them before they're getting any marketing out the door that adds any value to their prospects or customers. And that is what we call waste. In Agile, it is waste if it isn't bringing value right away to the customer. So we're trying to minimize the research part and build it in with executable marketing. So a minimally viable persona means that I'm going to basically sit down with my team. I'm going to write up everything I know about this group of customers from the information that I already have without doing further research. And as I learn more, I'm going to evolve this document. So this document isn't one and done, and it's not phased up front. It's evolving, and we're learning, and we can iterate on that persona without wasting too much time up front. We also are coming into the idea of a minimally viable campaign. So in a traditional marketing way, we say, oh, we have to have everything, right? We have to have a multi-channel, omni-channel, big bang, right? We are going to do this, and it will go on YouTube, and it's going to go on Facebook, and it's going to go on LinkedIn, and it's going to go on television and on the radio and all these other places, right? And we're going to blast our marketing, right? It hits everything. And for one, it's risky, and another, it's expensive. So the idea of a minimally viable campaign is we're going to get the fastest thing we can out there that adds value and still has quality. So say, for example, we are launching a new website. we might have lots and lots of ideas of how we want this website. We want, you know, a lot of personalization on it. We want like lots of fancy buttons on it, but that's going to take a long time, right? And we want to market our product on our website. So we might just say, what is the fastest way to getting something out there? So maybe we only put a homepage out there to start with, but at least it is out there and our customers can see it, feel it, touch it, respond to it while we continue to build and add on more. So that's an example of minimally viable campaign. The third minimally viable thing is called a brief. So some marketers do something called writing a creative brief. And usually it is saying specs. It's similar to a requirements document. It's going to say, you know, I want this image, I want this person, I want this, that, and the other thing. The problem with a traditional creative brief is it does something to creative people. It stops them from actually being creative, right? So we've taken out all the creativity and we've become so specific on what we want that the people, and this usually comes from management, that the people actually doing the creative work have no room left for creativity. It's also another thing that we call upfront waste. It's waste. It's too spelled out. It's too much upfront thinking. So we are coming up with a concept called briefs, and this is, let's look at just a quick, you know, one-page thing. There's some background noise. You can mute yourself. And this is going to highlight just a high-level creative direction without getting really specific on tangibles. And so that allows us to go faster. So one thing, there's a lot of terminology in the Agile community that it's very IT speak. It's very specific. I don't know if these words mean anything to you all, but we hear them a lot, and the adoption for marketers is not good when we try to directly translate everything from technology to marketing, because those aren't words marketers know or are familiar with or are comfortable with. And then they start to say, oh, no, this thing is not for us. This is a technology framework or a technology process. And so we try, or I've tried to encourage marketing friendly language. Let's use terminology that marketers know and can grab onto and is part of their world. Ultimately, with Agile marketing and Agile in any other department or area of life, we are trying to do the same thing ultimately, but our approach might be just slightly different. So a couple of stories on where I've seen Agile marketing applied. One is Fidelity Investments. They are a large bank in the US. They have a corporate office here in North Carolina where I live. And so I interviewed their head of Agile and talked to him about what's happening and how marketing is embracing it. So they have actually a corporate-wide Agile transformation that's been in the works for several years now. It definitely started in software. They are using the Scrum framework in software. They are also using the Scrum framework in most marketing areas there. I wouldn't say all of them, because I just had a student in class from Fidelity that said they weren't using Scrum, but a lot of them are. And the approach that they take is kind of inspect, adapt, iterate, learn. It's a test and learn concept. Banking is usually very corporate, very traditional, very slow. They wanted to launch a TV spot, and they were going after middle-aged people like myself, and they wanted to do a TV spot using 80s music. So instead of paying $1 million and launching a big commercial at the Super Bowl and learning after the fact that it didn't resonate with people, they took an agile approach. And how they did that is first they tested their theory about the 80s music. So they got some test groups out there and they said, all right, we're gonna see, are we on track with our idea that 80s music in the commercial is the right thing? So they shared it with a small group of friends and family, and they tested a few different songs, and then they came and said, yep, we're gonna prove our assumption is correct. They do like 80s music. All right, great. So then what they did is they did an inexpensive version of their commercial using YouTube, and they tested it once again with friends and family. And they said, now what do you think? Do you like this? Do you not like this? And they said, yeah, it's great. Let's move on. So you can see where they were able to build something with value, but their final product was further down the road. But the theory is that by the time they got to their TV spot, they were very, very confident that they were meeting the needs of the customers because they were able to test and learn at several steps along the way. So another company that I have had the pleasure to train and have some of my classes is Perday. And Perday Corporation has been definitely embracing agile marketing. They have more than 2,000 people learning agile marketing and not a lot of in-house expertise. So how they are doing this is they sent some of their leaders in agile through some of my training classes, and then these leaders are leading something called a dojo, and a dojo is like a boot camp of learning. And so they funnel all these teams through this dojo, they start to learn, and then they spread it out. And so they are learning that way. They did not have a formal Scrum process. I would say they were doing a hybrid method there, at least the teams I've worked with. It's very large. So, but they realized actually after coming through my class, they said, oh, a person called a marketing owner to prioritize, that would really help streamline the way they work. And so they were going back and embracing that concept. But they're learning. They're learning by doing, and they're learning by the idea of teaching others. So compared to our friends in software, marketers are still at an early adopters phase. They're just very much in the beginning. The Agile Marketing Manifesto was written 10 years ago. So it has existed for about a decade, but it has not been accepted other than by a very, very small group of kind of pioneers back in that time. And what they were doing then is they really weren't using any sort of framework. They were just reading a book, kind of trying to go fast, and that was Agile. And they're learning a lot more about it now. It is a culture change in many companies. A framework really helps. But marketers are not in the same place as people in software. And so they're really learning the basics. They're really just getting started. But we are seeing more and more adoption of Agile marketing coming. So if you're looking to get started with Agile marketing, I want to give you 5 ways that you can do that right away that are pretty easy, don't take a lot of reorganization or a lot of education to do. And so here are my 5 steps for getting started. And you don't have to do all 5 steps at once. Try one, experiment, maybe try another one. But the first is align your company on the Agile marketing values and principles. It is called agilemarketingmanifesto.org. It's online, and you can see what those Agile marketing values and principles are. And so what I suggest that you do is, if you're working on a team, you go and you either put them physically on a wall or on an online tool, and you start talking about them as a team and say, you can play some games with it. Just say, are we like this? Are we not like this? What kinds of things do we need to work on? And then I usually say, Pick one or two that the team says, you know what, we're not doing those things. We really need to work on it. And come up with a few actionable things that the team can take and own and try to be more aligned with the Agile values and principles. The second idea is to make a marketing backlog. And that is just start putting all the marketing work that the whole team does in one place, one prioritized list. This will help to create transparency and visibility into all the work rather than having people have individual tasks that they own that nobody else sees. So it's a really good step to take. The third thing you can try is making work visible. So whether it's putting it on a physical board with sticky notes or finding a tool such as Trello or Monday, those are good ones for marketers, where everybody has access into the work the team is doing and can see that every single day. My fourth idea for you is to conduct a daily stand-up. No more than 15 minutes a day. Everybody on the team should align on the day's plan. It is not meant to be a status reporting meeting, but it is meant to say, here's how we're moving forward today as a team, and here's how we plan to approach our work, and hey, can I help you with that thing? Can I help you with that other thing? My fifth tip for you today is a retrospective. Having a regular retrospective where the team inspects and adapts how they work together, comes up with one or two actionable improvements for how they can get better at their process or how they work as a team. So these are 5 really easy, simple things that you could try today, you know, without making a large investment or a lot of training. So get started. Go ahead, give Agile marketing a try. Little things. I told you my story. I started with experimenting and it just grew from there. I also want to let you know that I have an ebook that is a free download, which will help you. I've compiled all the lessons I've learned out there in the field and put it in this ebook. So agilifytraining.com is the website. You can go there and you can download that ebook for free. And also connect with me on LinkedIn and at Twitter. Email me if you have questions. I do write a lot of articles about Agile marketing. It's something I'm very passionate about. So I'd love to stay connected with you and to help you begin your own Agile marketing journey. So that is all I have. I will leave the last 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Stacey. That was awesome. And I'm sure we'll be able to pick a lot of information from there. So we'll go to question and answer now for the next 15-20 minutes, and then we can call it a day. All right, so if you have a question, you can raise your hand, 1, 2. You can also drop them in the chat room. Okay, so we can then frame all that together. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand, we'll take you. And if you can also drop them in the chat room, we would like to pick it from there. Okay, you have a question? Okay, I'll take Wilson OBD. Take your question. You can unmute yourself. Short and sharp, just straightforward to the question, and then you can take it.
Okay, hello, good day. I was wondering how to apply Agile marketing to our current trend in Nigeria, especially we that are into software development. How do we translate it to sales using the Agile method?
There's a lot of background, so I'm having a hard time hearing. Could you mind repeating that?
Yeah, please check your sound. There's a lot of noise at your hand, so you may need to take that again. However, all the questions can come in different directions, not only in Agile, even the previous one, you can ask a question now from all the facilitators. So Wilson, take that again quickly. There's still noise at the background.
It's hard. I can't hear.
Okay, let me help. I think I picked one or two information. He wants to know for the software developers, how can they integrate agile marketing into achieving their sales and what have you. All right. If you could work with that.
So how can software developers embrace agile marketing? Is that what?
Yes, something like that, yes.
Sure. Let me say it. I'm not quite sure what trying to ask there, but I would say software developers should work with marketers, right? Especially if they need to release the software, they need to market it. So it's always a good idea to build relationships with the marketing team and the software team if they're not